Wontumi FM was denied the opportunity to broadcast. Happy FM denied the opportunity to broadcast. Mr. Speaker, must not ever happen again, because Mr.
that I have looked at the laws under which the minister has issued the suspension directives. Mr. Speaker, there are two laws, basically, and regulations that govern. The National Communication Authority Act 2008. National Communication Authority Act 2008. And the Electronic Communication Act 2008. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask, in 2008, who was in power? In 2008, who was in power? Who was in power? Which political party was in power? Which political party? The NPP. The NPP. The NPP was in power in 2008. And the laws that govern electronic communication and the National Communication Authority, which define the obligations of license owners, were passed by the NPP.
Seen in respect of the statement from the presidency later this afternoon, a supposed clemency. Mr. Speaker, these are things that are done for the optics when the political system sees that there's a backlash.
Mr. Speaker, on the 22nd of February 2023, there was a letter addressed to the Managing Director, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, Kumasi. Dear Sir, violation of conditions of authorization. We refer to the inspection conducted at the FM broadcasting premises of Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited at Kokomlemle, Accra, in the Greater Accra region of
Mr. Speaker, I paid attention to the statement by the minister. I heard him talk about regulation. Hearing him on regulation, I looked for my constitution and turned to Article 11 of the Constitution, which guided me on the hierarchy of our laws. It's clear to me from the reading of Article 11 that the regulations he referred to cannot stand in the way of the Constitution. If you read Chapter 12 of the Constitution, in particular Article 162, Mr. Speaker, let me take your leave to read. Freedom and independence of the media are hereby guaranteed, subject to this Constitution and any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution. There shall be no censorship in Ghana. 3, there shall be no impediment to the establishment of private press or media. And in particular, there shall be no law requiring any person to obtain a license as a prerequisite to the establishment or operation of a newspaper, journal, or other media for mass communication or information. Mr. Speaker, 4, Editors and publishers of newspapers and other institutions of the mass media shall not be subject to control or interference by government, nor shall they be penalized or harassed for their editorial opinions and views or the content of their publications. 5. All agencies of the mass media shall, at all times, be free to uphold the principles, provisions, and objectives of this Constitution, and shall uphold the responsibility and accountability of government to the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, lastly, on 162, that's 1626, any medium for the dissemination of information to the public which publishes a statement about or against any person shall be obliged to publish a rejoinder, or a rejoinder, if any, from the person in respect of whom the publication was made. So, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution provides a comprehensive guide on the operations of the media space in Ghana. Let me rely on the views expressed by the Honorable Sam George, MP for Ningo Pampram, in the 8th Parliament. Mr. Speaker, he spoke strongly against ministerial action in respect of such defaults. He was against any form of penalty. And Mr. Speaker, in his argument, he relied heavily on the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I adopt those views as though they were mine, to the extent that the Constitution makes certain broader provisions. And this is not to suggest that I am against the subsidiary laws enacted for the purposes of regulating these media houses as part of the checks and balances that are required or needed in every democracy. Mr. Speaker, democracy must be guided for the good of democracy itself. So I agree. But Mr. Speaker, in a situation where it becomes obvious that in the exercise of such discretion, there's a clear breach of Article 296, as my respected colleague, the former ambassador to South Africa and MP for Abrim just said, the intent must be looked at. And clearly, it comes without doubt that Article 296 has some questions for NCA and the ministry to answer. What we are seeing in respect of the statement from the presidency later this afternoon, a supposed clemency. Mr. Speaker, these are things that are done for the optics when the political system sees that there's a backlash. It is a very rich statement, very rich. And we take this supposed clemency with a pinch of salt. Mr. Speaker, we take this with a pinch of salt. That the NCA, together with the ministry, have embarked on a certain path, and now Mr. President, exercising his supervisory mandate, is now telling them that don't do it. Couldn't this have been discussed in-house prior to this decision? Well, Mr. Speaker, we have been in government before. so we can understand the situation the government finds itself. Mr. Speaker, I have heard certain views being expressed to the effect that, oh, yesterday we heard of similar actions by the executive. I recall that as a member of the appointment committee, the issue of the closure of some radio stations became a critical matter for us to even discuss at the appointment committee. And our friends opposite were very, very firm in their conviction. And I shared those sentiments with them. Granted that something happened yesterday which was not good for our country. Do we have to repeat them? No. Since 1993, no one here can tell me that our democratic journey has been static. It's been very dynamic, it's been fluid. Things are done and improved upon. So in this reset regime, we expect better. No? Mr. Speaker, you do not break it and pretend to be fixing it when it's not broken. You broke it. So if you are fixing, then you say we should commend you, we should be happy. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, clemency is a belated thing. It's because of the public backlash. I would want the NCA and the ministry to be strongly guided by Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution. A regulation cannot overreach and override an express constitutional provision. In the list, the regulation is Wontumi. FM was denied the opportunity to broadcast. Happy FM denied the opportunity to broadcast. Mr. Speaker, must not ever happen again, because Mr.
Honourable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
Honourable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, this was the respected colleague who was inviting us to uphold the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the gravamen of this submission was to the effect that the administrative body with regulatory powers was required by law to comply with certain provisions of the Constitution. And that is why he relied on the veritable words, we are vested with upholding the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, when authority is given by the Constitution, the same Constitution imposes an obligation on that authority. And I have said earlier that that limitation is clearly defined by Article 296. So clearly, I am saying that the respected Honorable Minister must not change his principles by virtue of his new position of honor. He fundamentally agrees that we must uphold the Constitution. And at the risk of being repetitive, the provisions in Article 162, as relied on supra, require of us not to impose any impediment So if the regulation would impede press freedom, our duty as a house, as Honorable Sam George invited us to do, is to uphold the Constitution. It's our duty bona fide. So, Mr. Speaker, let's not justify in any way this attitude of shut down. If yesterday we were loud on the rooftops that it is not good to suspend or shut down, then today let us maintain the same principle and say that we would rather have an administrative engagement. Why should Asase Radio be denied the opportunity to broadcast? Why? Why will Wontumi be denied opportunity? Why is Wontumi suffering? Why is Wontumi suffering? Why is Wontumi suffering? What has Wontumi done? What at all has Wontumi done? Mr. Speaker, if we say we want to perfect our democracy, then we must be seen to be walking that talk towards perfecting our democracy. This business of it happened yesterday, so we must continue this vicious cycle. Mr. Speaker, it won't help any of us. Today, I will repeat what I've been saying since 7 January 2025, that this power of 187 is not permanent. We have seen 169 before, and we saw 137. So let us all be guided and know that the power immediately you are given is like an ice block. It begins to melt. We should be guided so that when the power comes to us, we will remember to put in certain blocks that one day we will use it for equity in times of need. But if you have a member for Kwesi Mintim who now says in his submission that he is applauding the harsh measures, the punitive actions of a regulatory authority, which is contrary to Constitution. If a lawyer from Kwesi Mintim and a member of this house argues that he finds no problem with an administrative authority vested with regulatory powers exceeding its mandate, let me, Mr. Speaker, as for Hansard,
Honorable Minority
it would
Leader.
always be a great
Honorable Minority
witness.
Leader.
So, Mr. Speaker,
Please operate within Order 91.4.
very well.
So,
Mr. Speaker, all that we are saying today will be referred to tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, so I would want to encourage Honorable Sector Minister to rather deepen the engagement process as directed by the President. Some of these belated actions for the purpose of optics will not help the cause of democracy. Stay away from the punitive actions. Stay away from this excuse of you need to enforce a regulation, especially when in enforcing the regulation, you may be slipping out of the confines of the Constitution. We we as the minority here will always move with full force to support all those who will be at the receiving end of any form of injustice. Mr. Speaker, without more, I shall resume my seat and listen to the majority leader to have his take on this matter. Thank you so much.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Right Honorable Speaker, I have cited a correspondence, a letter written in 2022 and 2023, and I just think that it will be useful to close this matter by just reading those letters. Mr. Speaker, on the 22nd of February 2023, there was a letter addressed to the Managing Director, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, Kumasi. Dear Sir, violation of conditions of authorization. We refer to the inspection conducted at the FM broadcasting premises of Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited at Kokomlemle, Accra, in the Greater Accra region on 14th of June 2022. The inspection revealed the following lapses in the setup and operations of Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited. 1. The station's transmission system was located at Accra Newtown instead of Ajangote, or within a 5-kilometer radius from Ajangote, as required by Condition 3 of your authorization dated 26 October 2021. This is causing interference to stations using neighboring frequencies. 2. There was no fire certificate from the Ghana National Fire Service. No fire certificate. 3. There was no permit from the Environmental Protection Agency approving the installation of the mast. Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited is hereby directed to rectify the above anomalies within 90 days from the date of this letter, that is by 21st May 2023, and invite the National Communication Authority for a second inspection. Please be informed that the cost of the second inspection amounts to 2,000 Ghana cedis and shall be borne by the Wontumi Multimedia Company. Please take note that the issuance of a test transmission authorization for Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited to commence operating its FM broadcasting station in Accra is pending compliance with the above directives. Yours faithfully, signed, Director General Joe Anochi. That is the first one. I have a second one, signed also by the same Director General Joe Anochi to the same company, the Managing Director, Wontumi Multimedia Company Limited, also on 21st December 2022, also titled Violation of Conditions of Authorization. Same conditions, transmission challenges, no fire certificate, no permit, repeated and signed again by the same Director General, Joe Anochi. Mr. Speaker, you see, when you take a license and the license stipulates conditions, please endeavor to comply with the conditions of the license. It is as simple as that. It is a national asset and the frequency has been allocated to you. subject to payment of certain license fees, please pay your license fees. I don't think any of us is interested in waking up in the morning, tuning into a radio to hear what is happening before you even step out of your house, only to be told that the radio station has been put off. So we don't want that. But please endeavor to comply with the conditions under which you have been licensed to operate. So that is all that I will say. And also to emphasize that I have looked at the laws under which the minister has issued the suspension directives. Mr. Speaker, there are two laws, basically, and regulations that govern. The National Communication Authority Act 2008. National Communication Authority Act 2008. And the Electronic Communication Act 2008. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask, in 2008, who was in power? In 2008, who was in power? Who was in power? Which political party was in power? Which political party? The NPP. The NPP. The NPP was in power in 2008. And the laws that govern electronic communication and the National Communication Authority, which define the obligations of license owners, were passed by the NPP. So I am surprised that today, the leader of the minority, an MPP leader of the minority, and a lawyer for that matter, will stand in this chamber and say that it is unconstitutional and a violation of the Constitution for laws to be passed governing the management of frequencies. And yet, it was your party and your government in 2008 that enacted those legislation through this parliament. So I think that when you urge others to be consistent, you must also be consistent yourself. So if you say Sam George has to be consistent, I also want to also be consistent. Be consistent with the position of your party on the management of frequencies. And as for His Excellency the President, I am surprised that you will say that he is being magnanimous because of public backlash. When did the suspensions take place? And when did that public backlash occur that I sitting here I haven't heard? When did that public backlash occur? The suspension occurred at what time of the day? At 10 a.m. this morning. And the clemency came at 12. Within 2 hours, who could have exercised such public backlash that His Excellency the President will be magnanimous to the extent that he is being? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, yes, we are representatives of the people, but first and foremost, if we sit in this house and laws are being violated and ministers are taking steps to enforce those laws, and we stand in this house and attempt to condemn those ministers, then we might as well stop coming here. Because we are not here to make laws that should not be enforced. So when ministers are enforcing the laws, we should be the first to be commending them. I remember saying this about this same minister the last time he tried to enforce the law, and some members stood in this house and made statements that seemed to undermine efforts to enforce the law. This is the last thing that should be happening in this country, in this house, that we have enacted a law and the minister is enforcing the law, and we will stand in this chamber and try to take the minister on for enforcing the law. Please, let's stop it. Otherwise, there's no use being in this house. Mr. Speaker, on those very few words, I think that I commend the minister. We thank the President for his decision to direct the minister to suspend his actions. But the minister has given a timeline, and I think that all of us should be urging the media stations, the radio stations, the media houses to try and comply with the law. When it is genuinely difficult to comply with the law, I'm sure the minister will know. When you actually make an effort, the minister will know. And the minister will not arbitrarily just shut down or suspend a radio station when there is clear evidence that the radio station is making effort to comply with the law. So, Mr. Speaker, on that note, we thank the minister for coming to make such an important, urgent statement on a matter of government policy. And I think that we can continue with the next stage in the business of the House.